Hey folks, how are y'all doing? Thanks for coming today. My name's Tim Murphy. I'm a journalist and novelist here in New York City, and also a friend of Vincent's. And so, I remember when Vincent Gagliostro, the filmmaker, and I remember when I read an early version of this script 6 years ago. Isn't that crazy? And so it's so incredible. This isn't the first time I've seen it. I saw it at the New York premiere in the last fall, right? So it's just really incredible when you see something in such an early iteration, and then you see it and you know about all the work and the money and the blood, sweat, and tears and the wrangling and the artistry that got from what I saw to what you just saw. So I'm so excited to introduce Alan Cumming, the lead. And Zachary Booth. And of course, the filmmaker, Vincent Gagliostro. So I'll ask them some questions and then y'all can ask them some questions as well. So I guess I wanted to start with you, Vincent, obviously. Tell us a little bit about the making of this film. How did the idea start and when did it start? When it started, what did it look like in your head? Usually I know with novels, it's like you start with one tiny germ of an idea. You think maybe you want to write a book or make a film about ... So where did it start for you? What was the seed?
It started with something that didn't make it into the film at the Bernini Fountain in Rome, which was a scene that my friend William Wilson, who you met through the wonderful David Drake, as his little short novella, called After Louie, he has a lot of, he starts the novel off with, here's how I got the AIDS virus, and then kind of goes into whatever happened to the mine shaft, and then tells you how he first meets Louie, and it was at the Bernini Fountain the day Judy Garland, died. But that's for the opera, I think. So that was the first visual that I had in my head.
That was the actual image, the first image you had that you thought, yeah, this could be a film.
Yeah.
So how did it evolve from there? And I always love to ask people flat out, what did you want to make a film about?
Oh, okay. I wanted to make a film about looking at how defined, the defining event in my life. And I think I mentioned to Alan once a long time ago, that loss had really, was really the defining event in so much of my life. From early on, my father died but right before I graduated art school, and then what happened in the oncoming years, through HIV and AIDS. So I just wanted to I wanted to tell it through a narrative, through a story of, one person. And so that was really and I just started to explore, the various kind of, angles to that, to that idea. And, and as I said, started with a very, a 3.5-hour script, and which went back to 68 and the 70s, and it went all over, kind of all over the place in a good way, but, no, it was like, that wasn't going to happen, and then, and did a little installation project that Zach was involved in early on. I think it was 2007 or 2008. And it was kind of really, my experimental video work, which is kind of what I had been doing. So it was very abstract and very Godardian and weird and good, though. But it was good. Everyone liked it, you know what I mean? And then, flash forward, it's just like a lot of that kind of writing and a lot of friends, people like Larry Kramer looking at the script and everything. And then one of my producers, Bryce Renninger, said, have you ever thought of writing the script with somebody? And I said, no, but that's a good idea. And then I didn't put two and two together. He said, well, I want you to meet my friend Anthony Johnston. And we met, and we were having like an 8-hour coffee, you know. And I said, do you want to read the script? And he said, yeah, I want to read the script. Because I was just telling him everything, you know, going on about my whole saga. And he read it. He called me that night and said, my God, this is amazing. I said, good, you want to write it with me? Literally, and he did. And that's where where it really kind of started to take the shape of that you saw on the screen. You know, the divide between these two generations, you know, and we were able to obviously pull from each other's experience of each other, you know, and so that kind of really gave it, you know, a real kind of through line, a real, you know, source for everything that Sam was, you know, confronting himself.
So that's sort of how the fundamental tension of the film came to be, this tension between this older, middle-aged, you know, in which I include myself.
Easy,
so it's
careful.
not hey, no, in which I include myself. I mean, at best, I'm an upper
That's not
Gen
good
X.
enough.
So, you know, so that's where that became the central conflict of the film, right? Between this sort of, kind of the post-AIDS, well, the AIDS generation, really, of gay men, and the post-AIDS generation that came of age without really witnessing that devastation firsthand, right?
And also because that there's a middle generation missing, you know, who all died. So those young gay men now don't have sort of the mentors that people of our age did, because so many of them were lost. So I think as an added thing to the, you know, the schism that exists is compounded by the fact that there's a generation of people who aren't there to sort of pass down the baton.
Alan, when you read the script for the first time, what struck you first?
It was a sort of a thing that I felt that I knew this argument, this central argument, and it was sort of, you know, one of those moments I was like, oh my God, I know these people. I know older gay men who are kind of closed off and a little smug about the whole AIDS experience, and are kind of and make it harder for younger people to get in, and are just, you know, obviously also damaged and have PTSD about the whole thing. And I know young people who don't really give a fuck and who think, why should I? And I know some young people who are like, well, you know, they make it boring, and, you know, and so I know people from both sides of the argument. Yeah, I've never seen any film or piece of work that had that story in it. So it was like one of those things, like, why has no one ever made a film about this?
And I'm curious, what was your take when you read your character, or I assume the character that they had reached out to you
I was
about?
actually up for the younger role, but I decided...
Okay, honey. Yeah. Sure. Right, with heavy Vaseline on the lens, right?
Oh, God.
Snap.
Just coming out for a Q&A. I didn't know I was going to get a dressing down.
When you read the part, what did you make of him, you know, in terms of, he's a really challenging, difficult character. He's rather not likable. I mean, we can understand what he's lost and what he's went through, but he's pretty consistently unlikable. What were your thoughts about how you'd play him?
Well, I actually really liked that about him in terms of just an acting, you know, point of view. I actually was excited about playing someone unlikable, because I think we're all, you know, one of the things that we're all sort of, we all want to be charming. Do you know what I mean? We're all sort of conditioned to be likable in life, and as performers as well. So even if you're playing someone mean, you kind of want to be sort of a, you know, charming mean. But this was, you know, I think it was really important to not be, so you could understand why his friends were frustrated with him. So for the story to work, Sam had to be someone who you just want to give him a slap, you know, and also you want to help him. So that was something. I've not really played people like him before, and I just really was drawn to the fact that, the first thing was this kind of great message and great sort of untold story at the center of about this schism between the generations. And then after that, it was like, wow, it'd be really great to play someone older than me, and You know, but someone, like you say, unlikable.
Just to get out of those millennial roles
Yeah,
that
it's
you're always
exhausting, I know.
stereotypically cast in.
Let my
right?
body go, you know, it's great.
And Zachary, I want to ask you. You know, when you read, can I ask how old you are?
Yeah, I'm 35.
Okay, so what's that? Upper millennial, lower?
Unfortunately,
I
I
can't keep track
think
of all
I'm,
these
I'm
brackets.
still considered a millennial. I think it starts at 82,
Yeah.
which I resent.
Right.
But then I did read another article that says they're trying to create a new name for those of us that are right in there. So I'm just waiting for that to stick.
Cusp, right?
Yeah.
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 A Gen Xennial.
Something.
Like
Well,
that.
I don't care what it's called as long as it's
All right.
not a millennial.
So when you read the script for the first time, what did you make of your part? I mean, how much did that character, did Braeden remind you of yourself, and how much did he not?
Well, first, Alan, thank you for graciously stepping aside and allowing me to play the role. Yeah, well, it's hard for me to answer that just because I had been a part of this conversation about this movie and then the process of this movie for such a long time. So when I first read the script, I didn't really, I mean, as Vincent said, it was all these different time periods and there's all this other stuff going on. I didn't access it in the way that I did this story that we ended up telling. I remember sitting early on in one of our first like lunches or dinners with Vincent and him asking me about my generation and sort of how I felt about it. And if I felt that my generation was at all involved in activism and if I felt that there was a sense of community. And at the time I said to you, no, I don't. I don't at all. But like in hindsight, that was, 10 years ago. And I was like fresh out of the closet and not a part of my community in any way. You know, I wasn't actively involved in my community. So I don't think I really was in the best place to give that answer. Fast forward to now we're getting involved in the film and I get this version of the script where first I see Vincent, which is the main reason that I wanted to be a part of this was because his story I think is so valuable and so interesting for every generation and people from all over. And then I saw myself because now I had become a part of this community. Now I was involved and was a little more better educated and understood a little bit more, what the film was talking about. And I also was more of an advocate for my generation. And I saw the activism of this generation and I see it happening now today, this past weekend. And so I was able to sort of jump into it with a little more enthusiasm and I think just a stronger opinion about the whole thing.
Right. Okay. And let me ask you, Vincent, for those of you who don't know, Vincent, as well as being a filmmaker, is also an incredible graphic designer who actually did create a lot of the visual look of ACT UP. And how much of the ACT UP, imagery in the film that we see was created by, were some of those images created by you?
Most of them.
Yeah. So, yeah, right? So,
Along with Abram Finkelstein, who was the designer of the Science Equals Death poster.
with Abram Finkelstein,
Sorry,
right? Yeah.
Abram.
So,
Yeah.
you can't sort of like some filmmakers, you can't say that the lead role isn't somewhat based on you, right? So just to ask a really blunt question, how much like Alan's character how much is rooted in you and how is he different? I mean, I know you, I don't find you as difficult as Alan's character. So, how much, what's the overlap and what's
I think
not?
the porn version of you. I think that's
The
what
porn version, right?
I think so. Yeah, you want the porn version.
Damn, let's save that for.
Well, I don't smoke and never did. That's a
me
big
to,
difference,
what are
but-
those things?
Oh, the Swiss
Herbal.
herbal.
okay.
Sorry, America.
Herbal things.
Because
Correct.
wow, that made Mad Men
Yeah.
look like
I
know.
a post-smoking.
Do you know we were saying that when we first showed? Sorry, I'm interrupting. But in the film that when we showed the film in San Francisco at the film festival there, the bit when Zach says, "Will you stop smoking?" People cheered. There was this massive cheer throughout the cinema. I felt like, ooh.
that's even more anathema in California than here, right?
But actually, I thought it works. The whole point was just this incessant thing that he just, he's just.
Well, and he's killing it. He's really kind of
Killing
slowly
himself,
killing
yeah,
himself,
yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know.
But back
Yeah,
to my
yeah,
question,
sure.
Vincent.
Back to, I mean, being an artist and a painter and designer over the years and everything, it was very, that part of Sam that you see, his kind of rejection of painting and kind of, you know, feeling like it was he wasted 15 years, you know, and what has he been doing, you know, refers to it as a vacation, you know, is very, very, very much part of this. I was sitting, at, my desk one day, and an email from Avram, and we kept going back and forth. I don't know why we didn't pick up the phone, but it was kind of weird. Anyway, and as I had asked him, I said, "What the fuck are we gonna do?" Oh, sorry, you're recording. Sorry. You know, and he said, "I don't know." And I went, "I got to do something." You know, and I said, "Well, I'm making these video things. I'm gonna do a video of, based on this text of my friend Williams, because I think that he was, I remembered that someone read at his eulogy a very, very, porn part of the novel, and everyone was kind of shocked. And I said, that's what I need to do, shock people again into something. So that, that was really kind of how.
But are you like him?
Am I like? In one sense, yeah, I give people a hard time, in a night, and kind of, not so much in a nicer way. I was going to say that, but I don't think so. I mean, I've been asked to leave the table a number of times, or Richard has kind of across from a table. My husband has been across of 41 years, but has been across from the table. There'd be a dinner. I'd make a dinner, invite people over for dinner, and and he would just look at me. He would know the signs, and he would go. I mean, I threw someone out of my house once because I didn't like what he said. But, so yeah, I guess kind of.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, the
mellowed.
gay marriage scene is interesting. He really fulminates against gay marriage. Did you share some of those feelings?
Yes.
Why?
Because at the time, I was just kind of like, oh my God, we're gonna then think we're done, and that.
And I think that is a totally relevant point. Sorry to interrupt again, but the other day in my bar, a really nice man came in who lives up the street, and we were just chatting, and I heard him say, "Oh, but I thought the LGBT fight was over." And, he said, you got married, I thought that was it. And I actually thought, wow, people who were outside of that probably, it's a kind of a sensible thing to think. But actually I was like, well, there's some things that if a fireman in Alabama doesn't want to put his hose on some people to save their lives because they're gay, he's allowed to do that. And there's these rules, the religious freedom things, those are really, being...
Those things really are playing out right now in the courts.
Yeah, and they're already in some states. Yeah. And so, I just sort of told him about lack of work,
discrimination protection,
and especially for trans people, and just and it was a benefit for this financial services thing. There's a new credit union called Superbia. It's by LGBT people for LGBT people, because I didn't know this, that it's actually the LGBT population are the lowest economic group. They have the less, even though we all think of rich gays, and some of them finance this film. But actually, as a whole, our community has the lowest economic mass, and that's because they are discriminated against by financial institutions. They can be refused loans, they can be refused mortgages, or they'll get massive interest at the discretion of these people because of their gender.
And
or
it's
sexuality.
true, and LGBT is not just professional cisgender white men in Manhattan and San Francisco.
Yeah.
It is all sorts of folks all throughout the country. Many in states that have no legal protections.
Absolutely.
It's true, right?
So that was what I mean. That's
what I meant. And also, for me, in a lot of the LGBT organizations, it's just like money's pouring into these organizations for that fight, for gay marriage. And I'm on the board of an AIDS research organization for many years at Korea, and we were like, our money, it was hard to get money to people to think about research, because it was like, what do you mean research? What it's done. It's done. Now it's the marriage, and then so it just became I became very afraid of what was going to happen.
But also, what's interesting is that you started writing this uh, if we're just going to break things down by presidential administrations, in the Obama era. Where there was sort of an air, there was sort of a lull. Obama was kind of a lull over things that were happening underneath the surface, and so much has changed really in the political and the cultural climate
Really?
since. Well, just a little bit. If you squint, you can't really see the difference. Not. But I guess what I'm saying is, do you feel, and like Zach was saying, and so this question is for the three of you, we've seen this incredible, I'm involved in this group, Gays Against Guns, and we were in DC. Oh, thank you. Thank you. And, what's amazing is, especially since like the Parkland tragedy, is there's this surge of incredibly young people into this issue. And a lot of them are openly LGBT, including Emma Gonzalez, the young woman who's taken on such an incredible role. So my question is, do you feel differently? There's that, or would Alan's character, let's say if we were asking him in this moment in time, a few years later, would he feel differently when he says that young queer people today just don't care and are complacent? Like, things can change, and if a film, there's a pre when the film comes out and post, and how much do you feel differently?
You guys see me? Yeah, sure. All of us, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do feel differently because one of the large issues for me, and with my opinion, with regards to my opinion of the younger generation, is that they have this incredible political power, and I would say like half of them don't even know it, and the other they don't know what to do with it because there's, as you were saying, there are no mentors, there are no guides, and not that there's a guide for how to do it, because we didn't know how to do it when we started ACT UP, so and obviously, I mean, I feel like it's amazing what happened on Saturday. It's just extraordinary, and I think that the times they are changing right now, and we might even have Donald Trump to thank for it, because he's pissed so many people off and made everyone so sick to their stomachs, that it's something's got to give, and he may be the one to have lit that flame.
Right. I feel that, yes, it's great. I feel in a way, I hear what you're saying, Vincent, about that, the level of political engagement in this country since Trump has been remarkable compared to how it was before. But it saddens me that it takes something like that to happen for people to be politically engaged in the first place. And I sort of think that American politics is like this sport activity. Once every 4 years, you have a match. If your team doesn't win, you think, oh, well, all right, another 4 years, and then we'll just put up with it. And then people don't really care the rest of the time. And I feel that's the flaw, one of the flaws, that, there aren't more political parties. People feel, the wide spectrum of both political parties here could have at least, 3 different political parties in most democracies. I don't think there is a democracy that still only has 2 parties. So that's weird. But I feel the system does not engender political engagement until something really extreme comes along. And hooray for Donald Trump for doing that, I suppose. But I do worry that, I said this, we were in Philadelphia at this film festival last night, and I said, I think it's a difficult time to be gay in this country. People, hate crimes have gone up massively. And there's all these, people are feeling emboldened to repeal laws that protect people or to create laws that persecute them. And just in general, there's a feeling of it's not as safe and as kind a country as it was. And so that scares me, because it's a sort of a general wash of fear that LGBT people have, because I suppose of the fear that other people have too.
Right. I'm sorry. How much? Where's my point person? How much more time do we have, including time for questions?
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes total. Okay. Well, all right. I got some pre-questions here, so all right. We'll speed it up.
Okay.
Here's a question for Alan. Can you tell us a little bit about Vincent Gagliostro's background?
Well, it's black right now. And, I don't really know. I mean, we heard his background, really. Maybe we knew when, we did that. Yeah.
We did that. All right. So
Shady.
This is the question for the panel. What is your favorite part of the actor-director relationship and collaboration? And then another big part was crossed out, so that's the whole question. What's your favorite part of the actor-director relationship and collaboration? Do you want to start, Zach?
Sure, I love the compromise. I think that's the best part. I think when there are, opposing viewpoints about an idea or a scene or whatever, and then the compromise happens. And I love those moments in a film because I think nobody was expecting to get what you end up getting out of it.
Okay. What about Vincent? You didn't just write. You directed it, right? What was? There's a story there. We'll flag that. What was the? Let's flip the question. What not your favorite part? What was the most challenging part of directing your own film?
The most challenge. There were two. One that was the most challenging was just I'd never done that before, and I thought, I'm not gonna have any days to kind of get my footing. I just better get it, and luckily I had, especially Alan and Zach, because they were, I don't have that, I don't have that much experience in that, but they were incredibly generous and tolerant, and every day it exceeded anything that I could have imagined that a particular scene to be. It was just constant surprise, and I would cry a lot, and and that was and that kind of thing and everything. So it was very challenged to kind of feel, and I constantly jump into these waters that I like that challenge, and I was worried that it was I need to pull this off somehow, and the crew and the actors made it very easily. I'll just stop there. You don't need this. I don't need this.
What was the happiest moment for you as the filmmaker in the whole process?
The happiest moment is actually kind of happening this week, because you make whether it's a painting or a novel or what, it's like when the real public is just seeing it, and they can get it on iTunes, or they could stream it somewhere, and it's just kind of like it's out of that festival, world, which is, obviously real public, but it's a lot of times it could be very
We
codified.
should mention that it will be at Cinema Village here in the city as of Friday for a week, right? And then it will be on iTunes forever.
Video on
Is that
demand
right?
on Friday as well.
Yeah.
So everyone can get it on Friday.
Okay.
So iTunes and what else? Amazon, I suppose. All these things.
Starting Friday.
All
Yeah.
this,
Right. Okay.
all of them. There's like a whole list.
Okay. And what about you, Alan? Your favorite part of the actor-director relationship and collaboration? Let's just restrict it to this film.
Well, just getting to meeting Vincent and Zach and people, just finding out, going into in someone's head and finding out about people's stories, Vincent's. So to have someone there who actually did all the things that you're trying to recreate, and to have on the set, these people who were such a part of that time, that was great. I just love. My favorite thing about going to work is just meeting people, and hearing their stories. So to hear the story of someone that you're actually kind of embodying, that was really great.
What was the core of your character that you were trying to get to? Like
The core.
Yeah, what was the base, the core, the base motivation, or
I don't know. I don't really think like that. I just try to make him unlikable. I try to make my body look older. I did. I tried to change my. I thought, because we were having there was a you'll like this. There was a sort of a drinks party for rich gays to hopefully give money to help the film get made, and it was me and Anthony and Vincent, and we were standing like this, and we were all dolled up. And at one point, and Vincent went, "So Alan's playing Sam. He's someone looking down the barrel at 60," and I went, "What?" So it was subtly changed to 55 the next time we did it. But I thought actually, you know, to make this story work, that's why I grew my beard and kind of put on a little bit of weight, tried to make it, I thought...
He doesn't live healthily either,
No, he
right?
doesn't
So
live
you had
healthy.
to
And
sort
I'm
of
like
embody
super
that,
healthy.
right? Yeah, right. Okay.
I mean, not super healthy, but, you know, I would never, I don't smoke and I'm a vegan and blah, 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 and I exercise a lot. So all that stuff, I'd kind of try and think how I could make myself seem like him. And so that was, I liked that. But that, I suppose, was the biggest thing in terms of when I stood back from it and thought, okay, well, how am I going to do this? Well, number one, I've got to try and look older. I've got to try and have an aura of someone less forthcoming in life than I am.
Are we?
We could have some questions. Sure.
We have 1 minute. I did want to ask. I just have a question for Zach, and then you know, in your mind, when you read the script, I was musing on this. When Braeden keeps the money the first time, why does he do that? Like, you know, what? I mean, he's not a sex worker, I guess, to use the proper term. Why do you think he keeps the money the first time?
Why would he give it back? I honestly don't know. I think, I mean, he needs the money. You know, baby needs to pay that rent. You know, and I think also this is the mind of somebody who has like no judgment about sex work or no judgment about that kind of a transaction and wouldn't look down on that in any way whatsoever. So it's like, sure. You know?
Okay.
I mean, he didn't want to go get a job. We got to that later on.
Right. Okay. All right. Do we have time for like what? 1, 2 questions? What is that? 2 questions or 2 minutes? 2 questions. I see a big hand.
You guys did wonderful.
Thank you.
What was the bath at the birthday party? I didn't understand.
The bath scene. Yes.
What was the bath at the bath? What bath? Who went to take a bath?
The 2 boys.
Oh, you took a bath. Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's literally when I went to the bath for a second.
Well,
yeah.
the person
Party.
asking us the questions on this panel
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
know it's coming out on Friday and can't remember the end of the film. That's hilarious, Tim.
That's the purpose of the bath scene, you see. You know, no, I mean, there was a moment where, you know, I felt that what they say to each other, as far as I'm concerned, is probably the first 2 honest sentences they've uttered to each other through their, the length of the film, but also maybe perhaps their life. And I wanted it to be very off the party, you know, kind of off the party. You know, I wish I could say it was totally successful for me because we lost a transition scene because we couldn't shoot it, and but I was kind of intent on having it there, you know, and I think it kind of, you know, because of the lines that I really wanted there, but I think it was kind of a little Braeden-ish.
All right, and one more question right here.
It's not a question. I just want to honor David Drake, who's very much alive.
David Drake, who played William. Yeah, in those insets, yeah.
And through that, so to see somebody who I love very much alive, very much present in this film was great.
And he'll be with us at Cinema Village all weekend. If anyone, just spread the word.
Are we? All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for coming. Tell your friends to go see the movie.